Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built. Last week the Alfarrari died on the dyno, so this week we are going to fix up a bunch of the dodgy stuff that I had to do to get it running properly and hopefully get it running again. All right guys, welcome back, and like I said last week we had the Alfarrari at the dyno. It was a fantastic result until it wasn't. If you missed it, I'll put a link up above so you can catch up. It was a great episode, and as always, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. It all helps out the channel. On the dyno, it went really good. Like I mentioned, the factory Ferrari 360s on the dyno, forgetting what figure Ferrari put on the engine, actual cars, owners' cars that actually have been on the dyno, generally seem to turn about 310 horsepower at the wheels. Obviously, some people obviously don't realise that the 400 horsepower that Ferrari claim is at the flywheel. So it's the engine out of the car on an engine dyno. Power at the wheels, there's always a drivetrain loss and there's losses, and yeah, you can factor it in however you want. I don't really care about that because at the wheels is what really counts. At the engine is just, unless you actually take the car out and engine dyno it, which very few people do, it's just generally a guesstimate. The wheels is what counts, and that's what gets the car down the road, and this has got far more power than it needs. The crank trigger wheel sheared the bolts that were on it. That was due to my mistake when I made it, because those bolts were in shear and they didn't have enough force to be able to clamp those two parts together to get enough friction to basically hold up to the 9,000 RPM and that rotational force that they were going through. They're just far too small. So hopefully I don't have to pull the engine, but I probably will pull the gearbox so I can lock the crank from the back, from the flywheel, and get the flywheel bolt out from the front. So let's get up on the lift and start dismantling things. All right, that was a bit of wrestling to get the gearbox out, but I needed it out for a couple of reasons. One was to lock the crank so I can pull out that crank bolt, but the other was this shifter is actually quite sloppy. It wasn't when I first started, but when it was in the car, even in gear, it still has quite a bit of slop, even in gear. So I'm gonna have to do something about that right now, whether I'm just gonna have a look and see if I need to make up some bushings or what to try and tighten this up, because that's not good enough. All right, so I discovered my issue is there was no bushing on this side of the linkage, so there was just slop in the bottom of the linkage here. So instead of ordering one from Subaru or whatever and waiting for that to come, I just turned one up on the lathe. So here it is here. Just turned up a little hat out of some, not even sure what this is, Delrin or something that I've had sitting around. I'm not sure what, I don't know plastics. So that should hopefully slide on and do the job. So let's put it back together again and see if it works. That is much better. In gear, it is, yeah, the whole thing is just nice and solid and direct, which is, yeah, it's exactly what I want. Works nicely. I'm very happy with that. I'm sure because I'm playing with the gear stick, the comments will come in as why I didn't do a gated shifter. Because of the way I had to make this mount, it sits way too high in the car, and to get the travel to actually have a gate, the gear stick would have to be up here and the console would have to be so much higher in the car, like it wouldn't work. All right, so as you can see, this is the piece that broke on the dyno, the crank trigger. I'm going to now pull the crank pulley. To do that, I need to undo the crank bolt, which is a matter of locking the flywheel so that the crank won't rotate, and I can undo it. So let's start removing it and see the damage. There is just enough room to slide the pulley off between the front here and the engine. Otherwise, I would have to remove the whole engine, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. No. So I've got the cog off, and we can see here. You can see my bolts that I just did a little tack on each one of them, which probably killed the Loctite on them, and they just sheared off. So there was just 3 of them, and they weren't held on firm enough. So let's see if we can get the bolts out now and try again.
So here I managed to unscrew most of the bolts, and I just had to use the die grinder to break the weld slightly. And then the leftover small parts of the bolts, I heated them up to break the Loctite, and then using the punch to spin them out.
All right, so that wasn't actually too difficult to get the bolts out. The welds, I just lightly tacked one side of each of the bolts, and they'd all broken anyway. When it snapped, obviously, those little tacks had snapped off, because I was always worried about the bolts backing out. I wasn't worrying about the bolts snapping. So I've connected it back up now and bolted it back on, and that is the exact spot it needs to be. So now what I'm going to do is I've marked where my next round of holes are going to be, because now I'm going to be running 6 M6 bolts instead of the 3 M5. So let's drill and tap these, and then I can go back and re-drill and tap the original ones once it's re-bolted in with that. This time we have M6 bolts. We have 6 of them. They are Loctited in and torqued up. So we've got a nice solid firm mounting. Hopefully that should do the trick. So now it's just time to balance it and put it back in, and hopefully it won't go anywhere. That's not going anywhere. All right, so let me talk you through what I've done here. So you can see here, I've actually used a couple of razor blades to get a nice thin edge, because you're trying to get as little friction as possible. I've leveled these up onto these blocks, so I've got them nice and square and straight, and I've got my nice polished axle there. What I'm doing to get the balance is to roll this backwards and forwards along the edge, and you can sort of see that it finds if there's a heavy spot, which it seems like there actually is. And it's sort of rolling backwards and forwards until it steadies up, and you know that the heavy spot is at the bottom. And I've gone around multiple times and done some light die grinding to balance the wheel, so to actually take away the heavy spot. And now it's rolling, it's not stopping anywhere in particular. I am very happy that this is a very nicely balanced wheel. So now I can put it back on the engine, and we can button it all up. All right, crank pulley is back in and torqued up to 196 Newton meters as per the manual. So I really had to get on it. Time to put the gearbox back in and see if it worked. All right, so it is all back together again. There's still things that I need to tidy up from the dyno, but hopefully that crank angle sensor is working and we are going to run again exactly as it was before. I am still really nervous. Every time I go to start this car for the first time after something major, I am always nervous. Fingers crossed, everything was done correctly and it works. Yes! That doesn't look right. That's not right. Damn it! All right, so crank angle sensor is good. Works, lined up perfectly again and is running. Somehow I didn't connect the clutch properly, so something is not right there. I may need to take the gearbox off again because there's a rattle coming from the tunnel that's not right. Damn it! Damn it! Not the end of the world. Engine's good, just my bolting up of the gearbox. It's just... All right, I disconnect the fuel pump just so it won't start, but this is what it's doing when it cranks. It shouldn't be doing that. So I've got something in wrong there somehow, so I'm gonna have to pull it and see what I did wrong. Okay, so the throwout bearing is here, and it looks like it was must have been slightly cocked. And when I put it in, because it's worn out the entire center here. This was wobbling like this, so I'm imagining that this was cocked on an angle. Yeah, so it's toast. Oh, well, at least it was only 20 minutes to take the gearbox out the second time. I'm getting faster at it now. Not a big deal. I'll order a new throwout bearing and get it back in again over the next week, and at least it's running again. Engine side's good. Crank angle sensor, quite happy with that. So I think that means it's time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, in 2015, Ferrari released a limited version of the F12 as a tribute to their success in the 50s and 60s in the Tour de France Automobile. The TDF shared the same 6.3 litre V12 as the F12, but made an extra 40 horsepower, taking it to 770 horsepower. The TDF was also 110 kilos lighter than the F12, with a 0 to 100 time of 2.9 seconds. The body was altered on the TDF with a larger front splitter, rear fender louvers, and a larger rear spoiler. Upgrades to the underbelly provide 30% of the TDF's 87% increase in downforce compared to the regular F12. This will help it to lap the Fiorano test track a full 2 seconds faster than the F12 and the 488 GTB. Now, production of the TDF was limited to 799 units.
All right, so I didn't get around to all the wiring that I wanted to do. I did actually mostly wire up the reverse light and other things off camera during the week, but there's a couple of little bits and things left to do. Obviously, I've already ordered that thrust bearing, the gearbox to go back in, but at least it is running again, and I got that shaft balanced, and it's, yeah, that sort of stuff is very time consuming, but it's worth doing, and the engine's running, so yes, we are getting very, very close to the pointy end of this build.
It's worth doing it now rather than having to do it later and take the car apart to do it.
again and again and again.
As we've learnt over the many years of doing this.
Yes. All right, guys.
Like, subscribe, you want to help Jeff out and see the videos with no ads, follow from Patreon, and see you soon.
See you guys.
But with an increase in horsepower of 40, taking it to 770 horsepower. Let me do that again, that was a bit weird.
That was very weird.
With a claimed time of 0 to 1 in 0.29 seconds.
What the hell are you
I don't
talking
know.
about?
I got confused.
What's
I'm
0 to
very
1?
tired. 0 to 100 times or 2.9 seconds. And sometimes I was like, I'll just push on because I might get right.
No.
The body was altered on the TDF with a larger front splitter, rear louver the larger front splitter, rear fender louvers, and a large rear axis.
That's disturbing.
The larger rear spoiler. It's faster than the F12 and the 488 GTB.